In our massive country, there are card collectors throughout the land participating in the hobby. There's Mike of Junk Wax Hero and Greg of Midlife Cards. And while distance may separate them, here is where they come together to talk cards. You know, Mike, you know that you've made the big time when you have an intro.
I
So,
am obsessed with that intro.
yeah,
It's so catchy.
it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. Yeah, so I thought it would be fun, and we have a little outro with kind of the first cousins to the same sort of sound. So yeah, I mean, we're evolving quickly. We already have one. What do they call? What do they say? That it's canned. It's in the can, or it's I don't know what they say in the business.
Me neither.
But all right. Well, we've got one down, and we're going on number 2 right now. Um, How would you describe, first off, before we get into our main topic today, how would you describe the reception, acceptance of this new concept since when we first recorded, we hadn't even told anyone we were doing it, and here we are 6 days later. How would you say, did those 6 days go better than expected, as expected? What do you think?
I would say better than expected. I think that more people listened to the podcast than I expected for a brand new podcast. Way more people watched the YouTube video and subscribed to YouTube than I expected. I was blown away by the reception. There were a couple of negative comments from people, which is fine. If it's constructive, I like it. But there were a couple of little negative Nancy's that, whatever. But the vast, vast, vast majority were very positive, encouraging, subscribed, can't wait for more. And I've reached out because I have a new podcast I'm rolling out in the next 10 to 14 days or so. And I have reached out to a handful of people and asked them to be guests. And they are excited about it. And, you're trying to get guests for a new podcast idea. I didn't expect to be this easy.
Yeah. I think I agree completely. I think that people have been overwhelmingly positive. There's always opinion, and again, you have to focus on the 99%, not the 1%. And the 99%, it's been fantastic, and I'm excited, and I had fun last time, and I like this format so much because one of my favorite things is to just talk about stuff and ask questions and bounce stuff off of other people, and it can be whatever topic we want, and it's like we're not going in with like reader's notes. Like, we have a topic. Okay, agree on the topic? Yes. Okay, play. And so, or record. So it's very much just a natural conversation, as if we were talking on the phone on our drive home from work. So
Yeah, I love it too. And I don't take any notes. I don't prep anything for this, which might be a mistake. I know by saying that, I'm opening myself up to comments that say you should have brought some notes, but I'm not going to.
yeah, I think it's less natural with notes. I never do notes. So I'm good with it. So here's something that happened, and this is going to be our topic for today. And I'm going to tell a story of how this became the topic. Um, so I'm in a few different text groups with different collectors, which I love. I love, people pick a card up and they'll share it, or they'll see a video and they'll have an opinion and they'll share it. And so there's a few different groups that I'm in a text group with, one of which has myself, Theo, Dylan, Double D Vintage Cards, and Theo, obviously Clemente Collector, Adam, our third amigo, and of Splendid Sports, and John Mangini. And so John Mangini was on Professor Sports Cards the other day, who's a channel who's been around for a little bit, but he's recently gotten a lot of attention, and he's been putting out tons and tons of content, going live like 3-4 days a week for like a couple of hours, had interviews with Chris Sewell, interviews with Geo, a bunch of big names in the hobby community. And so Mangini was on, and Mangini was giving his opinion on some things, and as we all like to do. And Mangini was talking about a few topics. One of the topics was he was talking about graded vintage cards. And he was saying, yeah, I mean, where'd these all come from? Like, I don't remember for years. I don't remember ever seeing graded or autographed. Did I say graded? Autographed vintage cards. I don't remember seeing autographed vintage cards. And then toward the end, he started saying, yeah, I don't think we should tell people how they should be collecting or what they should be doing. So in this text group that I'm in with John, I go, John, come on. You said we shouldn't be telling people how to collect at the end after you kind of said you're not so sure about autographed vintage cards, like for like 20 minutes. Like, how does that fit? And John said, I didn't say you shouldn't collect autographed vintage cards. What I said was I'm a little skeptical about some of these guys who weren't like Bob Feller, who signed everywhere, and there were a few of those types of guys. Orlando Cepeda signed forever. He goes, I'm a little skeptical. And I was just giving my opinion. I wasn't saying you shouldn't collect it. I was just saying I'm a little skeptical of it. And then Adam jumped in and Adam said, that's a great topic for a video. He said, is telling your opinion or sharing your opinion, telling other people what they should or shouldn't do? And I was like, I'm stealing that idea. And they were all like, yeah, do it. That would be super interesting. And in fairness, I was like, that's true, John. You didn't say don't go collect autographed vintage cards. If you do, you're an idiot. He just was giving his opinion about how he is skeptical of it. And then that he didn't really say that's something you should or shouldn't do. So my question to you is, because I think we all do it, we all share our opinions all the time. That's part of what this whole medium is sharing opinions on things. When we're sharing our opinions, are we directly, indirectly, subconsciously, are we telling other people what they should be doing?
I think it can come across that way, and I think it depends on how you phrase things. And I hate that I'm going to add on to the Mangini stuff here, and I have the utmost respect for him as a person, as a collector. In that video, nearly the beginning, I hope I don't misquote him, but he started out by saying, I think this, I think this, I think this. 3 different opinions. Started with I think, and then he said, those are all just factual. And they can't be factual if they are your opinions. But I think that by starting sentences with I think, it protects himself from people saying, you're telling us how to collect. And I think it's smart of John. I do my best to say things like that as well. To say, I wouldn't buy these things, but, or I believe this. But sometimes I fail at that. I'm sure every YouTuber fails at that. And I'm sure that some viewers take that as us telling them how to collect.
Yeah, so you just said something, and I am going to take notes from time to time. And I said this last time. When other people say things, a lot of the times I will write it down because I don't want to then misquote what they just said. But you just said they can't be factual if they're your opinions. Well, some opinions are factual.
Then they're not opinions, they're facts.
Right. But so let me ask you, fair point. So if I said, I think PSA is grading harder now than they did in the middle 1990s, I think that's a fact. I think that's an indisputable fact. But it's an opinion, but it's really a fact, right?
I think a lot of people would argue it, and there isn't enough data. And I've worked in data for almost 20 years. There is data to say, this is really compelling. but we would need to really get into far more data than we have access to be able to say convincingly that they are grading hard. And I also believe that they're grading harder, to be clear, but I don't think we can say it is a fact that they're grading harder. I think it's extremely compelling. It's probably 95% plus chance they're grading harder or higher, but it's not a scientifically proven fact.
How far from the mean do we have to get before it's scientifically proven? I mean, every single survey does have a margin of error, but you looking at data knows that for something to be, statistically significant, I mean, I took a couple of stats classes in college, so I know enough to be dangerous, but you have to get way out to the edges. I don't know. Okay, but we're getting into the weeds.
Yeah.
So back, let me pull us back in because I drove us off a cliff there. So let's focus on the real topic, which is when people are giving opinions, are we indirectly steering people along the way that we are thinking? And is that a problem or is that a good thing? Because when I listen to sports talk radio, which to me, this is just sports card talk radio, basically, all it is opinions. It's that this is what the GM should do with the team. We got to get rid of this guy and trade him for this guy. And the whole thing is opinions. They're not facts. But if people are taking those opinions and making changes to what they're doing, then maybe those opinions are indirectly telling people what to do. Is this something we need to be more careful of? Like as collectors, as people who have voices in the space?
I used to listen to a lot of sports card radio, sports talk radio. WEEI out of Boston was my radio station for years, 15 years maybe. And those guys are trained to state their opinions as fact, right? I'm trying to think of a good example. Alex Bregman sucks, and they will say it forcefully and with meaning. Of course, Alex Bregman doesn't suck, but you get the point. And I can't bring myself to do that. I think it makes for better radio when they do that. I think it makes for better YouTube. But for me, my opinions are for me, and I want to share them in some cases. But I also don't want to make it seem like my opinions are right. And that I struggle with it. I think about it on every single video, and I know I miss it sometimes, but every time I'm talking about cards on a video, I remind myself to say, I believe this, instead of saying something that I believe as fact. And I think that you can get yourself in trouble with commenters or whatever when you're stating your opinion as fact.
So if I said something like Mickey Mantle is a safer place to spend money on cards than Drake May, is that an opinion or is that a fact?
It is your opinion. It's nuanced because some people will think, well, Drake May has a big runway. He could have a card that's $1,000 today and it's worth $10,000 in a month if he goes on a 4-0 run with 1,200 yards in those 4 games. It's probably not going to go up 10x, but Mickey Mantle, his cards aren't going to 10x in a month.
So it feels like a lot of the times we give our opinions, but people maybe receive them as facts. Or is it that sometimes we don't put the qualifier in there where we say, well, I mean, in my opinion, I think this, where we should be putting it in, because I don't want the responsibility. I don't want to tell anyone what to do. That is the last thing I want to do. What I like doing is I like talking about ideas and concepts like this. Like when I go up to a vintage dealer at the National and he says, you're a moron if you go buy, I don't know, some brake, or you buy into some brake, or you buy some repack product or something. You're an idiot if you do that. And he's stating it as a fact,
Right.
but it is an opinion. It might at times be opinions I agree with, but I don't know. I mean, it sounds like we're just trying to dice something that's not really there. But I think that it's a big thing, because I think that there are times where we give our opinions and it comes across as if it's a fact. Well, so and so said this, and it's like, well, there's more to it than that. I think that there's context, and I think that there's, what did they say about the rest of the topic? I mean, I don't know.
Well, if you say, as a YouTuber, sports card YouTuber, if you say brakes are a scam, brakes are a ripoff, and if you join them, you're an idiot, you're just limiting your audience. Because a lot of people who watch that are going to immediately shut you off and never watch you again. But at the same time, on the flip side, a lot of people will like that and like you more.
Yeah, one of the things I actually get the most heat about from people who watch the channel, or comment or meet me and talk to me or send me messages, some of the most heat I get is that I don't take a strong stance enough on certain topics. There are certain topics that they just, in their opinion, it's a fact that it's a bad thing, and I won't get up there and I won't declare it to be a bad thing. And on the opposite side of that, there are the times where I'll be talking to, so here, I don't know if I'm going to pivot us into a new conversation while continuing this one, but I'm going to do it anyway, because it's where my head is and it's what I'm thinking about. So there have been a few people who, over the last month especially, the rumblings have gotten louder, of people saying, why do we care about values so much? Values are becoming a problem because too many people are just focused on values. This is just a hobby. We should just be having fun. And as soon as you start talking about values, then a lot of the fun and the innocence goes away. So I then put a poll on my channel. And if you're going to watch this on YouTube, I'm going to put it up on the screen. I did a poll of my audience, and I said, the question was, I'm working on an upcoming episode. Which best describes you? And the options were, I don't care at all about card values. Another option was, I care a little bit about card values. Another option was, card values definitely matter to me. And then one said, I only care about card values. And 91% of the people were in one of the categories that does care about card values. Only 9% of the people who responded there said, I don't care about card values at all. So if I'm doing a show that I want to appeal to a fair amount of people, and to me, card values mean at least something. It's certainly not everything.
Right,
But it means it's part of the equation that I care about. Maybe less than some people, certainly more than some people. Then shouldn't I be talking to the 91% instead of the 9%?
Yes.
So then if I say,
if you want a big audience, yes.
But that a big audience has never been the goal. I know people say you're, oh, okay, Greg. No, seriously. Yeah, I know we did. But so I feel like what I'm trying to, it's the same reason I do a monthly video where it's cards under $50 that's sold on eBay, because 91% of the audience are buying cards that are less than $50. They're not buying $10,000 cards. So if my channel is just about $10,000 cards, I'm talking to like 2%ers. I'm not talking to normal people. And if there's anything that I am, it's regular. I am regular.
Eating a lot of fiber.
Well, so I don't know. I mean, your thoughts on, so when I am talking about value, some people are hearing me saying, this guy just keeps talking about value. And 91% of the audience is intrigued by that. And 9% are, he keeps telling us that value is important. And what I'm trying to do is say, I'm trying to tell you the value is important, at least somewhat to me. So isn't it the same sort of thing where when I'm talking about a topic that I'm interested in, and most people are, that I'm actually talking to the broader audience, but then there are other people who want to watch maybe, but they're like tired of me talking about value.
Yeah, and I would say that there's a good chunk of that 9%, maybe even all of them, that are interested in hearing those videos, that still watch them. And so by only talking about things that aren't related to value of cards, you, I think, wouldn't last very long as a YouTuber. Or no, I'm sorry. You would have a YouTube channel that would be much smaller. And there are great channels out there that focus on cards, sets, only talk about the backgrounds, only talk about the history of cards and sets and the players behind them. And those are great channels, but they tend to be smaller. And John Mangini touched on this as well. You talk about cards, you don't get views. You talk about values, you talk about stories, you talk about scams, you talk about those things, you get a lot of views. That's just human nature.
So let me ask you. I mean, I don't know if you got a chance. We're recording this on Friday, September 19th. Did you get a chance to listen to or watch the episode that I recorded with Darren, our off topic, and Jake and Matt from Providence about values and whether values have gotten carried away with the importance and if that's taken away from the hobby? And if you did hear it or you didn't hear it, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I watched probably 3/4 of it today. I didn't get through the last quarter of it yet. It's a very good video. I think that I'm trying to think of what was noteworthy that I don't recall anything other than Matt being very he was pretty funny, as he always is. Like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
This is long form, is not for me.
Yeah.
But I don't remember specifically anything that I took away from it off the top of my head. I was kind of working at the same time as listening.
Sure. Yeah, I just think that it's I think that and I've used I've used this example a couple of times, but a few years ago, in fact, I used it fairly recently, but I'll share it now to kind of defend my take, which is I a few years ago we bought a used boat. And I didn't even really think twice about buying the used boat because it was like 5,000. I think we paid 4,500 or 5,500. I can't remember which. And this little 20-foot boat that we would take out on the lakes and have a good time. And people were like, "Whoa, you bought a boat?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but if I wanted to sell it tomorrow, I could get the same money out of it." So it's whether the money is sitting in my savings account or whether the money is sitting in a boat doesn't really matter. So it made it a lot easier for me to spend money on a used boat that was 18 years old, that was fully depreciated, instead of spending it on, a trip or an expensive television or furniture for the back patio or something that in 2 years will be literally just haul it to the dump. And so when something is a value store, for me, it gives me more permission to actually purchase it. So one of the reasons that I am more okay spending money on cards is because if something happened and I need to get rid of them, in most cases, I'm going to get at least most of my money back. And because of that storage of value with potential upside and potential some downside. It that matters a lot to me as being a participant in a hobby because the risk is so low. I'm not going out and buying brand new golf clubs that 3 days later, if I tried to sell them, you can only get 70% of your money back because they're no longer brand new. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think the biggest points that I took from that is that you have a yacht, for one, and for two, you throw away all of your furniture every 2 years and replace it.
I mean, I think I must have done a fantastic job communicating my thoughts. I don't know. I mean, is it feels to me that the norm is actually to not it is to care about value, not to not care. So
Yeah,
should the people who don't care, should they just not watch?
no, they should watch whatever they want to watch. And I think that they're okay with us talking about value. Like, I have people who have never graded a card before, like I'm sure you do, who love watching my channel and hearing about these stories and the scams and whatever else, but they never grade a card. They'll watch graded card reveals. And I say, I like PSA slabs, I like SGC, I like CGC, and they don't, but they don't take offense to it because I'm not saying you're an idiot if you hate these companies.
Is collect the card, not the grade? Is that a fact or is that an opinion?
It's neither.
That's not an opinion?
It's more like a slogan.
So buy the card, not the grade isn't an
It's a
opinion.
philosophy.
It's a philosophy. Okay. Well, what are some things that because and I want to circle back to the are we telling people how to collect? When I'm sharing how I collect and what I like, and I mean when I say, these 1888 Allen and Ginter pirate cards are the shiz. When I say that, I'm not telling anybody how to collect,
You pumper.
right? When I say they're beautiful, I love them.
Those
Those
your
are all
opinions.
opinions.
Yeah.
When I say I really like the looks of pre-war non-sport cards, those are just opinions. They're not facts, but there are times where other people, I feel like, and see, part of it is when you're speaking, you don't know how you're received. Like when I do a video on something, it's like some people say, you're telling us what to do. That's bad advice. That you're an idiot. And then other people will say, totally agree with you. And you're like, you don't really, and that's the hard part about communication is that every person who is receiving the communication receives it differently based on the baggage, the opinions, their previous experiences, their thought process. They all receive it differently. But there are a lot of times where I feel like I think that I'm presenting an opinion, but somebody thinks I'm forcing facts down their throat or I'm telling people what to do. I mean, every single time I do a video about that mentions SGC or PSA, every single time I get at least one comment that says, that's why I buy ungraded, because that whole grading thing's a scam. I buy raw cards. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, that's great. Did I tell you you shouldn't buy raw cards? I've never said buying raw cards is a dumb idea, but I have said one of the things I'm a little bit concerned about with buying raw cards is it's less widely accepted the quality and the value of the card. Like a lot of dealers want to deal in raw cards because there's less information that can be agreed upon. And so it creates wider margins. They can say, well, that card probably would grade about a 3. And then as soon as they own it, that card would probably grade about a 6. and now there's more margin. But if it's in a 6, we can generally agree it's somewhere between a 5 and a 7, you
Yep.
know? And so it widens the potential upside. And I think to a certain extent, pre-war, and that's one of the things that the whole movement uh of eye appeal is, well, that card is better than a normal 3 because it looks like a 6. And I'm sure I'm guilty of that too. But that's one of the things with the eye appeal movement is all of a sudden the grade becomes less important when eye appeal is introduced.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you have especially a lower grade card or a card of varied condition, let's say you have a 5 and it looks like an 8, then to me, but eye appeal is it's in the eye of the beholder, right? Um, you have a 5, it looks like an 8 to me, but to PSA it didn't. And so the value of that card is in like a high 5 probably. If it's well centered, doesn't have anything on the front, you're probably going to pay high 5, low 6 prices for that card. But to me, I would treasure that card because it looks like an 8 in my eye appeal book.
So in your opinion, how much are you willing to pay above the grade on the holder or a card that looks significantly better in your eye appeal preference range? Does that do you still say it's, I was with you at the National. I saw you going around some tables and go, I don't know, like, that's way high for the grade. I mean, we still say that.
Yeah, and you did a great video on this where you said exactly my feelings, where I want to get paid more for my high eye appeal cards, but I don't want to sell it. I don't want to. How did it go?
I want to buy it for the grade, but I want to sell it for the look, basically.
Right, exactly. And like I said, I think if you have, I have a great PSA authentic Ted Williams 1949 Leaf, and it looks like maybe a 4 or a 5, but it has paper loss on the back. At the time, before the whole eye appeal movement really took steam a couple of years ago, I bought this card at low PSA authentic prices. I think I paid $550 for it, and I think it's worth well over $1,000. I wouldn't have paid well over $1,000 for it.
Mhm.
I would have waited for another PSA authentic that is priced like a PSA authentic or a 1.5 to come along.
Yeah, so you're like me, where you wanna pay the range of the number, but then
I want
you
to have
wanna
my
in
cake and eat it too.
right. Well, I mean, at least we have that in common. Um,
I
and
think
I mean, I got a lot of kickback on that video, and I'm like, I'm just being honest. Like, I mean, that's the thing too, is when I'm being honest, you know, there's always going to be an opinion about that. And not a lot of people will say that. They won't say I want to buy it for the number. But if I had to sell it, which what I generally do is the cards that I do buy that I think have high eye appeal for the grade, because of this whole, catch 22 for our literary friends, it's what happens is you end up just keeping the card because you aren't willing to sell it for what others would agree that it's worth. It's, we all think our kid is the best kid on the team because we remember all the little times that our kid did something that was really good that nobody else noticed. We see all the good in what our kid is doing, but we're quick to forget the bad part of what our kid is doing. And I think it's the same thing with our cards. It's like we focus on the things about them that are great, and the things that other people might be annoyed by, like the low number on it. We're like, but it's great, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I want cards that are low grade, high eye appeal, because maybe in 25 years, 30 years, when I go to sell these, maybe eye appeal will be far more important than it is now. But I don't have the budget. I want to have a lot of cards, and I don't have the budget to buy a lot of cards that are higher grade. So I'd rather buy low grade, high eye appeal.
Is the eye appeal movement an opinion or a fact?
Oh, it's everybody's opinion, and it's different. Like Dylan and I probably have different opinions of eye appeal. I don't remember. Is he anti-centering, or is he very high? I can't
Are
remember.
you kidding? Are
I
you
know he
kidding?
has an extreme take, and I can't remember which one it is.
It's an extreme. It has to be well centered.
Yes, I am with Dylan. Dylan and I agree on that.
No, I'm not talking about is your opinion of what is a high eye appeal might be different than mine. Some people are all about pack fresh eye appeal, and some people are all about centered eye appeal. Like some are high color or high registration eye appeal. Some are a combination of those things. What I'm asking about is the movement. A minute ago, you said the high eye appeal movement
Hmm.
has affected things. Is the movement that you just cited, is that a factual thing that there is
Oh,
actually an actual universally agreed upon thing that cards that look good for the grade should and are worth more than the ones that don't look good for the grade? Or is that just an opinion that we think that those cards are worth more because of the fact?
it's an opinion for sure. And I think that there is a movement, I believe, that's started, and there's even a website coming out pretty soon called Eye Appeal, where you can upload cards. And anyway, it's not my website, but it's pretty awesome. I'm excited about it. But yeah, it is an opinion that cards with high eye appeal should sell for more, and do sell for more. Sometimes they don't.
What's a fact then? Give me a fact, because we started this and we're getting close to, we want to kind of keep these around 40-45 minutes, and we're at 37 and a half. So to circle back, what is a fact then? Give
A
me a
fact.
fact about the hobby.
A fact is that PSA is grading more cards than anybody else.
Hmm.
Another fact is that SGC is grading fewer cards than they were 6 months ago.
Because you have concrete data to back that up.
Yes.
But an opinion is PSA is grading harder than they were 5 years ago.
That may be a fact.
It is. It's a fact. I mean, come on. But yeah, you're right.
Here's an opinion. PSA
Yeah.
sucks.
Okay. That's a strong opinion. I'm not willing to go there. And I will have people in the comments that if they've listened this far, will be pissed that I was unwilling to say that PSA sucks. And there are other people that are going to be pissed that you did say PSA sucks. And I don't
Yep.
know if you were speaking that that's actually your opinion, or that that's just an example of an opinion, but there are people on both sides of that. And it's interesting to me, and this is a topic for another show, but why is it that the grading company debates and conversations are, in my opinion, the most polarizing topics and conversations and videos? I will have more thumbs downs in a video where if I go all in on SGC, I'll have a bunch of thumbs downs. If I go all in on PSA, I'll have a bunch of thumbs downs. It's really interesting that sharing opinions, not facts, but opinions about those two grading companies get people really worked up, more so than saying, Willie Mays is better than Mickey Mantle. Like people go, well, but you say PSA is better than SGC or vice versa, and people are ready to, set you on fire.
It's tribal, and it's about value, because if I have my entire collection in SGC slabs and you have your video come out where you say bad things about SGC, I get offended because that's my collection, which is not true, but that is what happens with people, and people also have chosen sides. I think that if you are a PSA person, you get very upset if people point out flaws with PSA. If you're an SGC person, you get very upset if people point out that PSA is dismantling SGC. That's just it's tribal, it's side picking, it's political. There's a lot of things going on with grading and grading videos.
All right. I like it. I was listening to Chris Sewell and Jeremy, the Texas Snowman,
I did
on
too.
yesterday. It's a great video. And Jeremy was asking how Chris got to at the end, how he says, eat your vegetables.
Right.
And he said he used to just give like 5 quick
Yep.
hits at the end of all the episodes. And then that one kind of stuck. So I'm curious for you, just for this one, just to wrap it up, because we've talked about doing some fun stuff too. I want to give you an opportunity. Tell me one thing in any category, in anything in the world, one thing that's severely overrated and one thing that's severely underrated. Go.
Overrated, the TV show Friends, which on your video on Friday, you mentioned must-see TV, and the only show you mentioned was must-see TV was Friends, when Seinfeld was right there, Greg. Seinfeld.
For the record, I hate the show Friends.
Okay,
show
yes.
Friends. Yeah, I hate the show Friends. I used it because my understanding, what I remember is NBC had one night of the week that was like
Thursdays.
NBC must-see TV, and it was Friends night, but I could be wrong. I don't like Friends. My wife
Seinfeld
watches.
and Friends were both on Thursday nights.
Okay, well, there you go. So, overrated thing, Friends. Most underrated thing.
Most underrated thing. Oh man, this is a tough one. Boy, you got me here. I don't know. Well, you tell me what your most underrated thing is.
Well, I literally just thought up this concept 4 minutes ago as you were speaking. So, I'm gonna needle you a little bit on this.
Right.
So I'm gonna go with something that's it's gonna irk you, which is part of the fun. So I'll start with the underrated. Most underrated thing. One of the most underrated things is hiking. Hiking is fantastic.
Love to hike.
Be in nature, be surrounded by beautiful stuff, and not just look down at the trail, the ground, not just have your phone out as you're hiking, but actually getting fresh air, exercise, looking around. Where I live out in the community in which we live, we have like 20 miles of single track hiking and biking trails, and it's beautiful. And the only reason I don't go more often is because I used to take my dog with me all the time, and she loved it. And when I lost my dog, it took some of the joy out. But underrated is going to be hiking. Overrated, just to needle you, and I do believe it, is horror movies.
Man, I love horror movies. I also love hiking, and I went for a hike on Tuesday. I sent you at least one photo.
Yeah,
out there with my 15-year-old, and it was amazing. I hadn't been on the trails in years because I used to be a trail runner. We also have dozens of miles of trails, biking and running trails are all around our neighborhood. And I used to go out and run and bike virtually every day for years. But because of my foot injury, I haven't in a few years, and so I got out there, loved it. I'm gonna go underrated here, since I still haven't used my underrated. Plain water, just tap water, drinking it plain, has now become underrated because most people are like adding flavoring to it, and they're doing all kinds of weird stuff. At my office, everybody is using a Bevy cooler, and they swear they think it's if you don't use this, you're an idiot, they say. They don't really say that, of course, but people told me I had to, because I'm drinking plain water at my desk. I had to try this special bevy cooler, and you can add caffeine to it, and you can add flavors, and you can do all this stuff. And so I tried a few of them, and I'm like, plain water. Plain water is the place to be. And they think I'm the old guy, and I am the old guy. I'm the oldest on my 30. There's 17 of us in Maine, and I am the oldest of all of us.
I have to do a quick follow-up when you say water, though. What's the worst bottled water and what's the best bottled water?
I can't tell the difference. I usually buy Dasani because it's so cheap, because it's literal tap water. I cannot tell the difference between any sort of bottled water.
Oh my gosh. Everyone out there is going to fully agree when I say the worst one is Arrowhead. It's awful.
I've never heard of it.
You've never heard of Arrowhead water? Is this a West Coast thing? My gosh.
Not out here.
Have you heard of Dasani?
I just said that's all I ever buy is Dasani and Poland Spring too, which is a Maine
I'm
brand.
sorry. You said Dasani. Have you ever heard of Evian?
Of course, yeah. I would never pay
Okay.
for it because you're paying
That's the best one.
3x and it tastes exactly the same.
It does not taste like Arrowhead. All right. Well, we're at 46 minutes. This was fun. Again, the goal is once a week, but no promises because life happens. Any closing parting shots you want to say before we end this?
No, I think this is good. Go watch horror movies.
Yeah, because that's where I want to use my emotions and my energies is on a ridiculous movie. So, all right. Well, number 2 in the books, onward and upward. We have big things in store, lots of plans. Things are going to be unfolding over time. So, thanks for listening.